Evan was never a morning person. Life aboard the Orion research station meant early shifts, loud announcements, and the steady hum of machinery that never slept. Still, nothing could have prepared him for the sight that greeted him when he opened his eyes on this particular morning. Someone was in his bed. At first, his tired brain thought it was a blanket bunched up strangely. Then, as his eyes adjusted to the dim blue glow of the station's nightlights, he froze. The figure beside him was not human. Long silver skin shimmered faintly under the light. A soft crest of scaled ridges curved along the top of the head, and faint markings glowed like pale ink across one shoulder. It was Lyra, his alien roommate. Evan's heart thudded loudly. Lyra belonged to the Serolith species, known across the Alliance for being extremely disciplined and private. They valued rules and personal boundaries so strictly that even brushing past one in a corridor was seen as rude. Yet here she was lying half-curled beside him, her breathing calm, as though she had always belonged there. Evan carefully slid back a little, afraid to wake her but more afraid of what this meant. Was she injured? Had something gone wrong in the night? Or worse, was this some kind of emergency he didn't understand? Just as panic threatened to spill over, Lyra stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing the brilliant silver irises unique to her kind. For a moment she looked confused, her gaze darting around the small cabin. Then her eyes locked with Evan's and she stiffened. Neither spoke. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the soft hum of the life support system. Finally, Lyra sat up abruptly, nearly hitting her head against the bunk's overhead shelf. "This is impossible," she whispered in a voice that carried both shock and embarrassment. "You're telling me," Evan muttered, still pressed against the wall. "You're not supposed to be here. You don't even like people being this close." Lyra rubbed her forehead, her ridges pulsing faintly with nervous color. "I do not remember entering your bed. My last memory is completing a diagnostic in the lab, then returning to my own side of the quarters." Evan frowned. "And I remember falling asleep after finishing reports." "That's it. No alarms, no warnings. Nothing that explains." He gestured helplessly at the bed. Lyra stood, her tall figure almost brushing the cabin ceiling. She wrapped her arms around herself, clearly unsettled. "This must not leave this room, my people. They would see this as a violation of trust. I would be recalled immediately." Evan sat up straighter, the weight of her words sinking in. Whatever had happened, it wasn't just unusual. It was dangerous for her reputation. "I won't tell anyone," he said quickly. "But we have to figure this out. Something's not right." Lyra gave a stiff nod. Her usual calm expression softened slightly, revealing the tiniest crack of uncertainty. "Agreed." The rest of the morning only grew stranger. As they prepared for their shifts, Evan noticed odd sensations. When he brushed his hand against the table, he thought he felt not just the smooth metal but also something sharper, like how Lyra might perceive it. At the same time, Lyra occasionally froze mid-step, looking at him strangely as though she could sense his thoughts before he spoke. On the way to the station's cafeteria, Evan finally asked, "Are you feeling anything weird?" Lyra hesitated. Her voice was quieter than usual when she answered, "Yes. When I look at you, sometimes I sense your emotions, faintly, as though they were my own." Evan nearly tripped over his own boots. "That's not normal, right?" "No," she said firmly. "The Serolith do not share minds. Not with each other. Certainly not with humans." They ate in silence after that, both lost in thought. The cafeteria bustled with humans, Saurians, Telnari, and other species from across the Alliance. Nobody paid attention to the odd tension between Evan and Lyra. But Evan couldn't shake the feeling that something invisible was threading them together. Later that day, Evan found himself back in the lab. His assignment was routine, reviewing starfield data collected during the night. Yet his concentration wavered. Flashes of unfamiliar shapes entered his thoughts. Sharp crystalline towers under a red sky, flowing rivers of liquid light. None of it belonged to him. He glanced at Lyra across the room. She was focused on her console, but her ridges pulsed in a color he had learned meant unease. Finally, she spoke without looking up. "You saw them too, didn't you?" The towers, Evan's mouth went dry. "You're in my head. And you are in mine," she replied, her tone more resigned than angry. The two exchanged a long look. Fear mixed with curiosity. Something had linked them during the night. something powerful enough to break the strongest cultural barriers. That evening, Evan sat on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Lyra sat across the small room, unusually quiet. The bond between them lingered like a faint hum at the edge of his mind. He could feel her confusion, her worry, and, strangest of all, her determination. "I don't know what's happening to us," Evan admitted finally. "But if this is real, then maybe it's not an accident. Maybe there's a reason." Lyra studied him for a long moment, her silver eyes unreadable. Then she inclined her head. "Perhaps, but until we know, we must be cautious. We cannot allow the others to sense what has changed." Evan nodded, though his thoughts raced. Today had begun with the strangest shock of his life, and it had only grown more mysterious. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but deep down he already knew one thing. Whatever had happened between them, it was only the beginning. The next morning on Orion Research Station was supposed to be normal. The intercom announced the daily cycle. Engineers bustled through corridors and the hum of engines filled the air. But for Evan and Lyra, nothing felt normal anymore. Evan woke with a dull ache in his head. The previous day's strange connection still lingered. He rubbed his temples, but the moment he looked across the cabin, he knew it wasn't only in his mind. Lyra sat on her bunk, eyes closed, breathing steady. He could feel a faint ripple of her focus, as if her concentration brushed against his thoughts. "Still there?" he asked quietly. Her eyes opened. "Yes, the link persists." Evan sighed, trying to smile. "Great, I was hoping it was just a weird dream." Lyra shook her head. "Dreams do not allow us to share visions." They went about their duties, pretending everything was fine. But the station quickly reminded them it wasn't. During a briefing in the control hall, Commander Hale explained that the research station had recorded another surge of radiation from the planet below. The energy fields were unstable, spiking without warning. Most species aboard felt nothing, but Evan and Lyra exchanged a knowing look. Both had sensed the pulse before the alarms even triggered. After the meeting, Evan pulled Lyra aside. "We felt that, didn't we?" Lyra's ridges pulsed faintly with agreement. "The surge brushed against us. Our bond reacted before the sensors did. That's kind of useful," Evan admitted, "but it's also terrifying." Throughout the day, the connection grew stronger. While working in the lab, Evan caught himself speaking words Lyra was just about to say. At first it startled him. Then it became almost natural, like they were two halves of one thought. But the bond wasn't only about words. Emotions slipped through as well. When Lyra grew tense over a delicate calibration, Evan's stomach knotted with unease. When he felt amusement at a passing joke, he saw the faintest twitch of a smile cross her usually calm face. They avoided talking about it openly, but both knew this was no small accident. Something deep, something powerful, was weaving their minds together. That evening, unable to stand the mystery, Evan convinced Lyra to visit the medical wing. Dr. Marin, a human specialist in xenobiology, examined them carefully. Scanners hummed, lights blinked, and data scrolled across displays. Finally, the doctor frowned. "There's an unusual energy pattern surrounding both of you," she said, "like overlapping signatures. Your neural activity is synchronized in ways I've never seen." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Is it dangerous?" Marin hesitated. "I don't know yet, but it's connected to the radiation surges. Somehow your species reacted together instead of separately. That shouldn't be possible." Evan leaned forward. "So what happens if it keeps growing?" The doctor looked at him seriously. "Then the two of you might not just be linked. You might start changing each other." Her words echoed in Evan's mind long after they left the med bay. Back in their quarters, silence filled the room. Evan paced, running a hand through his hair. Changing each other? What does that even mean? Lyra sat still, her silver eyes steady. "Perhaps our thoughts, our senses, even our instincts may blend. It is not entirely unwelcome, but it is dangerous." Evan stopped pacing. "Not unwelcome?" Lyra tilted her head. "You are adaptable. Humans are known for it. Perhaps this link shows why your species survives where others struggle." Evan blinked, surprised. He had never heard a Serolith offer such words. For a moment, the tension eased. Then another surge swept through the station. This one was stronger. Lights flickered, consoles beeped warnings, and the deck beneath their feet trembled. But before the alarms blared, Evan and Lyra both felt it. Like a wave rolling straight through their minds, images struck them together. A planet cracking, Rivers of light bursting into the sky, and a voice neither could place whispering in the dark. Evan staggered against the wall. "You saw that too, didn't you?" Lyra's ridges glowed with unease. Yes, it was not only radiation. Something else is below us. Something alive. Later that night, unable to sleep, Evan sat on his bunk. Lyra stood near the small window, staring out at the planet's surface. Swirls of red and violet storms shifted across its horizon. "This link," Evan began, then hesitated. "It feels like it's leading us to something. Like it didn't just happen by chance." Lyra turned slowly, her gaze sharp but not cold. "Perhaps it is the planet itself. The energy may have chosen us. Or it may be warning us," Evan exhaled. "Either way, I think we're in the middle of it now." For a long time they stood in silence, the faint hum of the station surrounding them. The bond between them pulsed steadily, not fading, not weakening. Whatever waited on the planet below, whatever truth the visions carried, they would face it together, whether they liked it or not, and deep down, both Evan and Lyra knew one thing. This was only the beginning of a test that would change not just them, but maybe the entire alliance. The Orion research station trembled under another surge. Lights flickered, alarms rang, and the hum of machinery deepened into a low roar. Evan and Lyra stood together in the observation deck, watching the planet below churn with red and violet storms. Their bond pulsed between them like a quiet rhythm, steady and unbreakable even as the station itself quaked. "We have to do something," Evan said. "Whatever this is, it's coming from the planet. And it's growing stronger." Lyra's silver eyes glimmered with determination. "We may be the only ones who can respond. Our bond, it allows us to sense the energy. Others cannot." The station's emergency protocols guided them toward the reactor chamber, the source of the instability. Every step they took seemed amplified, the pulse of the planet echoing through the floor beneath them. Evan felt Lyra's awareness brush against his own, sharing both caution and resolve. As they reached the reactor entrance, the air shimmered with heat and energy. Panels blinked warnings and a low vibration shook the walls. "Stay close," Lyra warned. "We must synchronize our actions," Evan nodded. The bond between them allowed communication without words, a silent understanding of intention and movement. Together they stepped inside. Inside the reactor chamber, waves of energy pulsed like living threads. The radiation from the planet had interacted with the station's systems in a way the engineers had never predicted. Sparks flew from consoles and a faint hum of alien resonance filled the room. Lyra extended a hand, her senses guiding her to the panels most affected. Evan followed instinctively, his human intuition complementing her precise actions. Together they worked in harmony, bypassing circuits, stabilizing energy flows and channeling the surges safely. At one point, a surge of power knocked Evan off his feet. Lyra reacted instantly, pulling him close, shielding him with her body. At that moment, their minds intertwined fully. They felt each other's fear, focus, and determination. The bond, once strange and unsettling, became their greatest strength. "We can do this," Evan whispered, not to her, but to the connection they shared. Lyra's ridges pulsed brightly, a signal of agreement. Their hands moved together over the controls, energy responding to their unified efforts. Slowly, the reactor stabilized, the alarms quieted, and the vibrations subsided. Breathing heavily, Evan leaned against the console. We actually did it," he said, amazed. Lyra studied the readings, then glanced at him. "Yes. Our bond allowed us to act faster than either of us could alone. We saved the station." Evan felt a swell of pride. Humans often adapted to challenges that seemed impossible to other species. And now, in combination with Lyra, their capability had reached new heights. He realized why humans were often underestimated. They thrived in chaos, thinking quickly, improvising, and learning from mistakes. "Not bad for a human-alien team," he joked, a small grin forming. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "You performed adequately." Evan laughed, relief washing over him. For the first time since the incident began, he allowed himself to feel joy. Later, in the quiet of their quarters, the two reflected on what had happened. The bond remained, a constant presence at the edge of their thoughts. Neither feared it now. Instead, they recognized its potential. "This connection," Evan began, "it could change how humans and Seralith work together. We We could understand each other in ways nobody else could. Lyra nodded slowly. It may also allow us to prevent future disasters. If we can sense disturbances like this, we can respond before the station or anyone faces danger. Evan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I never thought waking up to find you in my bed would lead to this. Lyra's silver eyes glimmered with amusement. Neither did I. Yet perhaps accidents or unexpected events reveal the greatest opportunities. The following weeks confirmed their suspicions. The bond stabilized, and they learned to use it to predict environmental changes, repair systems, and even anticipate potential threats to the station. Other crew members began to notice their efficiency, though they had no idea why Evan and Lyra seemed almost synchronized in thought and action. The strange vision of the planet's towers and rivers of light returned in dreams and meditation, but no longer terrified them. They had proven to themselves that together, they could face the unknown. Humanity's adaptability, combined with Serolith precision, had forged a partnership stronger than either species alone. One night, looking out at the calm surface of the planet below, Evan realized the true gift of their connection. We started this by accident, he said softly, but we became something more than that. We're a team, and maybe more. Lyra's ridges pulsed faintly, a gentle signal of agreement. Yes, we are united. Not by chance alone, but by purpose. We will face the future together. Evan smiled, the bond between them no longer strange or frightening. It was a bridge, proof that humans, with courage, curiosity, and adaptability, could rise to challenges and earn the trust of the galaxy's most disciplined species. As the Orion research station orbited quietly above the planet, Evan and Lyra stood side by side. They had faced the storm, survived, and discovered something extraordinary. Not just about each other, but about themselves. The galaxy was vast, filled with mysteries and challenges, but for the first time Evan felt truly ready. With Lyra by his side, humanity's potential had never been clearer. They had not only survived, they had grown, proving that courage, intelligence, and cooperation could overcome even the strangest of circumstances. And as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the station's windows, Evan knew this was only the beginning of their journey together.